A quiet stillness enveloped the mountain peak, yet countless bewildered and confused gazes filled the sky, all converging on the slim, youthful figure who had just stepped forward. Junior brother Lin Dong, don't act rashly. Pang Tong and the others were taken aback, but quickly called out. While Lin Dong's earlier battle with Qing Yi had left them in awe, the opponent before him now, Wang Yan, was on a completely different level. Even someone as powerful as Ying Xiaoxiao had been defeated by him. No matter how strong Lin Dong was, how could he possibly contend with such an opponent? Lin Dong shrugged helplessly at their words. He had no desire to challenge Wang Yan, someone who, like him, had fought his way through mountains of corpses. But the situation left him no choice. It wasn't that he sought to play the hero. It was just that, as a disciple of the Tao sect now, he didn't want to see this sect that he had grown fond of suffer irreparable harm due to Wang Yan's reckless behavior. Or perhaps, he didn't want to see that lively, spirited girl who brought joy to the otherwise monotonous lives of the disciples, always wear that heart-wrenchingly sorrowful expression. Of course, he knew he wasn't the only one who felt this way. In the midst of the chaotic battleground, both Ying Xiaoxiao and Ying Huan stared at Lin Dong, the latter biting her lip in hesitation. After a moment, she softly said, Lin Dong, don't be reckless. He's really strong. Do I have another choice? Lin Dong glanced at her and smiled. Ying Huan fell silent, while Ying Xiaoxiao rose to her feet, gazing deeply at Lin Dong. She spoke softly, do your best. Be careful. She knew that among the Tao sect disciples, aside from herself, Lin Dong was perhaps the only one who could offer any resistance to Wang Yan. While she was fully aware of Wang Yan's brutality, there was something about Lin Dong now. Perhaps he was the only one who could face him. Lin Dong nodded slightly, then his figure shifted, landing in the center of the arena. His gaze locked onto the figure in the distance, one carrying a massive black sword. You're not my match. Wang Yan halted his steps at this moment, but he didn't turn around. His raspy, indifferent voice echoed. No matter what, I've got to try, right? Lin Dong smiled. Wang Yan's figure stiffened. After a brief pause, he slowly turned, his piercing gaze fixed on Lin Dong. His eyes were as sharp as blades, and an overwhelming aura of murderous intent began to emanate from his body. However, under the weight of this menacing aura, Lin Dong's expression remained unchanged. If anything, a cold glint began to surface beneath the faint smile on his face. Unlike the ordinary Tao sect disciples, Lin Dong had also clawed his way out of countless life and death battles. While Wang Yan had endured his fair share of mortal struggles, Lin Dong was no stranger to such experiences either. If Wang Yan thought he could suppress him through sheer presence, he was sorely mistaken. Wang Yan stared at Lin Dong, a hint of surprise flashing through his eyes at the coldness that was creeping into Lin Dong's expression. After a moment of silence, he said, Since you insist, so be it. But let me warn you, I don't hold back in battle. Good. Neither do I. Lin Dong smiled, then shifted his gaze toward the seats on the high platform. Seeing his glance, the four hall masters, Chen Zhen, Qi Lei, and the others, exchanged looks before turning their attention to the central figure, Ying Xuanzi. Ying Xuanzi's eyes, as deep as the sea, locked onto Lin Dong for a few moments before a soft smile appeared on his face. He gave a slight nod. Seeing Ying Xuanzi's approval, Chen Zhen and the others exhaled in relief. Chen Zhen stood up, his gaze sweeping across the arena as he declared in a low voice, This will be the final match of this year's hall competition. The winner will claim the championship and the command of the disciples in the upcoming sect tournament. If you are ready, begin. As Chen Zhen's deep voice fell, the atmosphere in the arena suddenly grew tense. Whoosh! The tension only lasted for a few moments before a terrifying aura erupted from the center of the arena. Wang Yan's figure transformed into a blur, his massive sword landing in his hand as he thrust it toward Lin Dong's throat with lightning speed. At the exact moment Wang Yan moved, Lin Dong, who had been on guard, narrowed his eyes. He stomped the ground, and a surge of azure light erupted from within him. His arms twisted and transformed into fierce, dragon-like limbs. With a clench of his palm, a black staff materialized. Azure light rippled across his arms as he summoned all his strength, swinging the iron-like staff in a devastating arc. Clang! The heavy sword and black staff collided with a thunderous crash, unleashing a whirlwind of force. Azure scales flashed furiously on Lin Dong's arms as he resisted the invading force. In the next instant, his eyes grew cold. He stepped forward with his left foot, his body twisting as he spun, and his right leg lashed out like a whip. Boom! As his leg lashed out, it transformed into a dragon's foot, surging with a destructive power that tore through the air and the ground. It streaked toward Wang Yan's chest like lightning, the terrifying force creating a deafening sonic boom. Wang Yan's eyes narrowed, recognizing the terrifying power behind Lin Dong's attack. He harbored no thoughts of underestimating his opponent. For someone like him, underestimation was a luxury that could have cost him his life countless times before. Dark Killing Fist. Wang Yan used his sword to block Lin Dong's staff, while his free hand clenched into a fist. A black light erupted from his arm, and with a sudden burst of energy, he unleashed a punch. Swoosh! His punch didn't create an overwhelming spectacle, but it carried a chilling killing intent that felt almost tangible, like the fist of a grim reaper. Boom! The black fist collided with the dragon-scaled leg, and azure and black lights exploded simultaneously, like two fierce beasts clashing in a deadly struggle. Bang! 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 The ground beneath them shattered as cracks spread like a spiderweb. In an instant, the entire arena collapsed, leaving the Dao sect disciples watching in sheer terror. Lin Dong's eyes were ice-cold as he saw his fierce attack being blocked by Wang Yan. His gaze narrowed, and in the next moment, the force behind his leg strike suddenly withdrew. But just as it was retracting halfway, the dragon leg, fierce and powerful, once again shot out, leaving behind afterimages and ear-piercing sonic booms as it swiftly enveloped Wang Yan. The terrifying power of the azure dragon leg rapidly expanded in Wang Yan's pupils. Lin Dong's relentless barrage of attacks caused a savage glint to surface in Wang Yan's eyes. His right fist clenched tightly, and he suddenly punched forward. Swish! 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 Countless fist shadows filled the air in front of Wang Yan, each one emanating an overwhelming black light, brimming with astonishing energy. Boom! 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 The leg winds and fist shadows finally collided with an earth-shattering crash. The entire mountain peak trembled violently as the ground around them disintegrated into dust under the force of the impact. Every disciple stared, dumbfounded, at the mountain top, which had nearly been obliterated. None had expected the clash between these two to be so fierce. Ying Xiaoxiao and Ying Huan had already retreated to the edge of the battlefield. Watching this intense confrontation, their expressions changed slightly. Sister Lin Dong, can he really? Ying Huan tugged at Ying Xiaoxiao's sleeve, her large eyes filled with worry. She knew Lin Dong was powerful, but going head-to-head with Wang Yan like this, it wasn't something to be taken lightly. Don't worry. He knows what he's doing. He and senior brother Wang Yan are the same type of person. Perhaps, to subdue someone as ruthless as senior brother Wang Yan, only more ruthless methods will work. Ying Xiaoxiao's gaze remained fixed on the dust-filled battlefield as she spoke softly. Ying Huan bit her lip and nodded slightly. She had seen Lin Dong fight before, and his ferocity was no less than that of Wang Yan. The eyes of everyone present were filled with shock as they watched the dust-covered battlefield. The platform had completely collapsed, and a breeze swept through, dispersing the lingering dust. With the clearing of the dust, the sound of wind cutting through the air echoed, and two figures shot out from within, their feet skidding across the ground, leaving 100-meter-long trails. Whoosh! The entire audience's attention instantly locked onto the two figures that had been thrown back. Low murmurs began to rise from the crowd. At that moment, Wang Yan's long hair was disheveled, and his black heavy sword pointed diagonally to the ground. A trickle of blood dripped from the tip of the blade, and on his chest, several conspicuous footprints could be seen. Opposite him, Lin Dong's azure dragon wings had reappeared behind him. His body was covered in azure dragon scales, protecting him like armor. However, despite this defense, Everyone could see bloodstains on his arms, where blood dripped down the scales. The clash between the two had been lightning fast but brutally intense. Each bore the marks left by the other, showcasing just how savage the battle had been. As they stared at the two combatants, whose gazes were locked in a cold, sharp standoff, many Dao sect disciples found their breath slowing. These two were like ferocious lions, each ruling their own territory, and now that they had crossed paths, the resulting battle could only be brutal. But as for who would emerge victorious, no one could offer a definitive answer. A fierce wind swept across the sky, scattering the dust that had covered the mountain peak. As the dust cleared, the two figures stood facing each other, their gazes cold and sharp. The primordial energy in the surrounding space seemed to be disrupted, creating a clear divide between the two, with the space between them appearing slightly distorted. At this moment, Lin Dong had clearly pushed the Azure Dragon transformation art to its limits. Not only were his dragon scales fully covering his body, but his Azure Dragon wings had also manifested. From a distance, he now resembled a half-dragon being, and faint dragon roars seemed to echo from within him, shaking the heavens. Lin Dong knew very well that if this were purely a contest of primordial energy, he would not be a match for Wang Yan, whose strength had reached the 9th nirvana stage. But combat prowess wasn't determined by energy alone, and he had methods that could threaten Wang Yan. Whoosh! Lin Dong's eyes narrowed, a cold light flickering within them. Suddenly, his Azure Dragon wings flapped forcefully. Whoosh! The flap of the wings created a violent gust of wind that blew all the surrounding debris into the air. Lin Dong's figure transformed into a blur, rapidly closing the distance between himself and Wang Yan. Wang Yan's eyes narrowed as he watched the approaching afterimages. Even he was taken aback by Lin Dong's astonishing speed. Boom! In an instant, Lin Dong appeared right in front of Wang Yan. His cold gaze sharpened, and his arms, transformed into Azure Dragon arms, gripped the black tree trunk. With a violent motion, he swung it down with all his might. Boom! Even before the black tree could land, the ground below exploded under the sheer force radiating from it. Ding! Just as the black tree, brimming with terrifying power, was about to reach its peak, a black, heavy sword, wrapped in immense primordial energy, shot out with precision, striking the black tree's trunk. Wang Yan's strike was incredibly sharp, landing exactly on the spot where the force of the tree was most dispersed. While his strength couldn't match Lin Dong's, his energy was boundless, and with a single strike, he managed to block the black tree's terrifying power. His precision and strength were enough to make anyone tremble in awe. Shoo! Although his attack had been blocked, Lin Dong showed no sign of surprise. At the center of his forehead, a gray line swiftly condensed, and the wild demon eye appeared. A gray beam of light, filled with a vicious aura, shot out with a sharp whistle, aiming directly for Wang Yan's throat. Humph! Wang Yan let out a cold snort at Lin Dong's ruthless attack. His two fingers formed a sword seal, and with lightning speed, he pointed at the incoming gray beam. A surge of sharp sword energy erupted, tearing the gray beam apart. Swish! Swish! After ripping apart the beam, Wang Yan took a step forward. His black, heavy sword transformed into a black storm, and fierce sword energy poured toward Lin Dong in a torrential counterattack. Faced with Wang Yan's overwhelming onslaught, Lin Dong flapped his Azure Dragon wings and soared into the sky. The wings deflected the incoming sword energy, and then Lin Dong's 5 fingers shot out. Behind him, the void cracked open once again, and from within, a towering ancient figure slowly emerged. Great Wilderness Celestial Prison Hand. Without a word of hesitation, Lin Dong thrust his palm forward, and the towering ancient figure mimicked the motion, summoning a massive, ancient palm imprint that descended with tremendous force toward Wang Yan. As the giant palm roared down, Lin Dong wasn't finished. From the wild demon eye on his forehead, a surge of gray light erupted once more, and the spirit of the wild beast was summoned once again. Whoosh! The spirit of the wild beast's massive, singular eye opened swiftly, and a towering gray beam of light, connecting heaven and earth, shot forth with a thunderous roar. In the sky above, Primordial energy surged violently as the giant palm and light pillar descended simultaneously, their target locked firmly on Wang Yan below. This terrifying offensive made many feel a chill run down their spines. Sure. Wang Yan looked up at the oncoming attack, a serious glint flashing in his eyes. He planted his heavy black sword firmly into the ground, and with a swift motion of his hands, he formed a series of complex seals. Instantly, a powerful wave of energy erupted from within him. Heavenly Sovereign Scripture, Heavenly Emperor Bell. The primordial energy of the heavens and earth surged frantically toward Wang Yan, fusing with the vast energy within him. Under the watchful eyes of the audience, the energy coalesced into a massive ancient bell. Clang! As soon as the bell formed, the giant palm and light beam crashed down upon it with devastating force, one after the other. The moment of impact resonated with a loud toll, echoing throughout the heavens and earth. Boom! The already devastated mountaintop shook violently once more. Boulders that had already fractured from previous blows were now shattered into dust by the sheer power of the collision, the force utterly astonishing. Crack! All eyes were focused on the point of impact, and they saw cracks begin to form across the massive ancient bell. After withstanding such a terrifying onslaught, the bell finally shattered into pieces with a resounding explosion. Lin Dong exhaled sharply, glancing at the figure that reappeared after the bell's destruction. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Wang Yan was indeed a tough opponent. If it had been Qingyi, he would have been sent flying by now. Yet, Wang Yan remained unmoved. This opponent was truly formidable. Below, Wang Yan's expression was grim. His hand, which gripped the black heavy sword, trembled slightly. Just as Lin Dong found him difficult to deal with, Wang Yan himself was equally shocked by Lin Dong's relentless assault. This battle had drained him even more than his earlier fight with Ying Xiaoxiao. After such a fierce exchange, both figures, one in the sky and the other on the ground, entered an eerie stillness. For a moment, neither launched another attack. Their energy consumption is too high, Ying Xiaoxiao softly remarked, her gaze fixed on the two figures who had suddenly stopped. They've both fought several rounds today, Ying Huan nodded. Senior brother Wang Yan is a powerful practitioner of the 9th Nirvana stage, so it's not surprising he's holding out this long. But Lin Dong, that guy's endurance, and the fact that he's been unleashing such powerful martial techniques back-to-back, is truly surprising, Ying Xiaoxiao said. That guy is no ordinary person, Ying Huan chuckled. Noticing Ying Xiaoxiao's curious gaze, her face reddened slightly, and she quickly changed the subject. Sister, who do you think has the upper hand? Ying Xiaoxiao frowned slightly, then shook her head. It's hard to say. Lin Dong's offensive is strong right now, but senior brother Wang Yan must still have some hidden cards. But Lin Dong's great wilderness scripture has also been kept in reserve. That guy always holds something back, Ying Huan replied. Indeed, we've all underestimated him. So as for who will win this battle, it's still too early to tell, Ying Xiaoxiao sighed. However, just as she finished speaking, her eyes suddenly narrowed, and her gaze locked onto Wang Yan in the arena. At that moment, Wang Yan abruptly sat down, his black heavy sword still lodged in the ground. His hands began forming a bizarre seal. A mouthful of essence blood sprayed from Wang Yan's lips, transforming into a blood mist that landed on the strange seal he had formed. Suddenly, an eerie and unsettling aura began to emanate from his body. It seems it's almost time. Senior brother Wang Yan doesn't want to drag this out any longer. Ying Xiaoxiao took a deep breath, her delicate hands subconsciously tightening. It was clear that Wang Yan was about to reveal his hidden trump card. Whether Lin Dong could withstand this would determine the outcome of the fight. The sinister aura spreading from Wang Yan's body intensified, and as it did, black mist began to billow out from him, expanding like a storm and rapidly covering half the sky. Within this black mist, an overwhelming aura of bloodthirsty malevolence radiated outward. The disciples on the mountain peak all watched in shock, inhaling sharply. They could sense the terrifying power in Wang Yan's move. He was finally using his most powerful technique. Lin Dong hovered in the air, his expression serious as he gazed at the scene. From the billowing black mist, he could feel an overwhelming sense of danger. He slowly descended from the sky, landing far from Wang Yan. His brow furrowed as the wild demon eye on his forehead flashed, and a gray beam of light shot toward the seated Wang Yan. Sure. The beam streaked through the air like lightning, but as it approached Wang Yan, it suddenly dissipated, as if it had struck an invisible barrier. It was as if some unseen force was protecting Wang Yan's body. Wang Yan glanced at Lin Dong with cold indifference. His eyes flashed with a faint red glow as his hand seals abruptly halted, and a hoarse, emotionless voice echoed. This technique of mine once killed 3 peak 8th Nirvana stage and 1/9 Nirvana stage practitioners in an instant. You still have a chance to back out? As soon as Wang Yan's words fell, gasps of shock rippled through the crowd on the mountaintop. Such a battle record was terrifying. No wonder Wang Yan was ranked second on the sect's wanted list. His skills were indeed formidable. Lin Dong exhaled deeply, then smiled. He plunged the black tree into the ground and quickly formed hand seals of his own. Senior brother Wang Yan, please. Seeing this, Wang Yan lowered his eyelids, no longer speaking. His hand seal shifted, and the black light filling the sky began to rapidly condense. Slowly, it took the form of a massive, indistinct black shadow. From this shadow, an overwhelming aura of death and malevolence swept across the land, causing the temperature to plummet. What is that? On the high platform, Chenzhan and the other 4 hall masters stared at the massive black shadow forming above Wang Yan. Their eyes narrowed in unison. What a powerful technique. It seems Wang Yan has had some fortunate encounters in recent years. The energy fluctuations from that technique are almost on par with the heavenly sovereign scripture. Qi Lei, the hall master of the heaven hall, remarked in a deep voice. Chenzhan and the others nodded slightly, worry flashing in their eyes. Wang Yan's strength had surprised even them, and now they were unsure if Lin Dong could hold his ground. That technique Wang Yan is using, it looks like the Black Demon Mirror. The one who created it was a ruthless figure from ancient times, known as the Black Demon. Ying Xiaoxiao, seated in the center, spoke calmly, instantly recognizing the origins of Wang Yan's martial technique. The Black Demon, hearing this name, Chenzhan and the others' expressions shifted slightly. It was clear that they had heard of this ruthless and renowned figure from ancient times. To think that Wang Yan actually managed to obtain his martial inheritance. Boom, boom. A massive black shadow, resembling a demonic figure, materialized above Wang Yan. While its features were indistinct, the sinister, deathly aura that seemed to transcend time and space was terrifying beyond measure. Who? A black light-tinged breath slowly escaped from Wang Yan's mouth. His face had paled slightly, indicating that unleashing this martial technique had taken a toll on him. He lifted his pale face, his eyes gleaming with a blood-red light that made him look particularly menacing. Forming a hand seal, his raspy, cold voice, laced with fanaticism, echoed across the mountain peak. Black Demon Mirror, Descent of the Black Demon. Boom. Boundless black light surged into the massive shadow. In the area where its face should be, 2 crimson lights emerged, resembling a pair of blood-red eyes. In an instant, the already overwhelming aura of death and malevolence intensified dramatically. Hiss! Under the oppressive influence of this deathly aura, the surrounding practitioners suddenly felt their own primordial energy sluggish, as if it had been suppressed. Shocked gasps erupted across the battlefield. Wang Yan hadn't even fully unleashed his attack yet, and already his power was this terrifying. The bloodlust in Wang Yan's eyes surged to its peak. In the next moment, he extended his palm, aiming directly at Lin Dong, before violently clenching his fist. Crack! As his hand clenched, it seemed as though the primordial energy in the heavens and earth had been crushed. The enormous black shadow's blood-red eyes locked onto Lin Dong, and the surrounding energy converged, forming an impenetrable barrier that cut off all of Lin Dong's escape routes. With no escape, the colossal black shadow took a step forward and sent a giant palm crashing down. Boom, boom. As Wang Yan's palm descended, the entire mountain trembled violently. The ground below crumbled, sinking dozens of feet, and a massive fissure nearly 100 feet long appeared, snaking toward Lin Dong like a furious dragon. The force behind this palm strike was enough to shatter a mountain. The watching disciples were left breathless with fear. Not far away, Ying Xiaoxiao's expression turned extremely grave, while the young girl beside her, Ying Huan, had gone pale. Even a 9th Nirvana stage practitioner wouldn't dare to take this attack head-on. What a powerful force! Lin Dong raised his head, staring at the giant dark palm descending from the sky. He could feel a suffocatingly thick sense of danger. He understood that even with his strong physical body, if he were hit directly by this palm, it would undoubtedly result in severe injury. And all the escape routes are sealed. Lin Dong glanced around. The violent primordial energy had formed an invisible barrier, trapping him in place. In that case, I have no choice but to fight to the end. Muttering to himself, Lin Dong's eyes suddenly grew cold and resolute. Clenching his palm, fresh blood oozed out, quickly transforming into a complex, mysterious rune in his palm. Bang! As the blood-red rune appeared, Lin Dong slammed his right hand onto the ground. At the same time, an incredibly strange energy wave spread out from him, radiating rapidly along the ground. Shoo! As the energy wave spread, everyone could see clearly that the once lush mountaintop was rapidly withering. The land turned barren. Even the earth itself cracked as if all its energy was being drained away. Crack! The cracks in the earth spread with lightning speed. Within mere seconds, the entire mountaintop had become parched and desolate, as though its very life force had been sucked dry. What is this? Countless gazes stared in shock at the suddenly barren mountaintop. Then, some among the crowd recognized the technique and their eyes lit up with excitement. That's the Great Wilderness Scripture. Once the Great Wilderness Scripture was unleashed, desolation would spread for miles. While Lin Dong was not yet at that level, he had still managed to turn the entire mountaintop into a wasteland. He's finally using it. Chen Zhan and Wu Dao watched the scene unfold. Even with their composure, they couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. It had been 100 years since they last witnessed the Dao sect's most powerful martial technique in action. As expected of the Great Wilderness Scripture, Qi Lei's gaze sparkled as he watched. He could feel the immense energy flowing beneath the ground, all converging toward Lin Dong's slim figure in the distance. He had drawn the energy from every living thing in the area, save for the people themselves. That was the terrifying aspect of the Great Wilderness Scripture. Deep yellow energy, like roaring flames, surged up from the ground, enveloping Lin Dong's body. The overwhelming energy radiating from him was enough to leave even Ying Xiaoxiao stunned. So it really is the Great Wilderness Scripture, Ying Huan murmured. In the distance, Wang Yan's pupils contracted at the sight. He took a deep breath, suppressing the shock in his heart. He now understood why Lin Dong had dared to challenge him. This guy had actually mastered the Great Wilderness Scripture. This clash was about to get very interesting. The deep yellow energy, like flames sweeping up from the earth, occupied half the sky. The vast, boundless power seemed as though it could set the world ablaze. At the center of that energy, Lin Dong's slim figure stood tall, his sharp gaze like an eagle's, locked onto Wang Yan in the distance, who was shrouded by the demonic shadow. This was the first time Lin Dong had fully unleashed the Great Wilderness Scripture. He could clearly feel the energy within the land gathering around him, and this was a power he could control. It was a power unlike anything he had ever possessed before. Now, Lin Dong finally understood why the Great Wilderness Scripture was considered the Dao sect's most powerful martial technique. It allowed him to forcefully draw upon the energy of the earth itself, turning it into his own strength. In a way, this was somewhat similar to the devouring power of the devouring ancestral symbol. The difference was that while the Great Wilderness Scripture borrowed energy to unleash devastating attacks in a short burst, the devouring ancestral symbol slowly absorbed and assimilated power, making it a permanent part of its master's strength. One technique focused on the present, while the other was geared toward the future. They were fundamentally different in nature. What incredible power! Lin Dong extended his hand and clenched his fist lightly. A smile curved on his lips. It seemed he was quite satisfied with the formidable strength of the great wilderness scripture. Boom, boom. The colossal black palm, capable of blotting out the sky, descended with terrifying pressure. The already cracked earth shattered completely, turning into a barren wasteland. Whoosh! Lin Dong took a deep breath, his already bright eyes now glowing even more intensely. Clutching the black tree tightly in his hands, he raised it high before bringing it down with a powerful strike. Whoosh! As Lin Dong swung the black tree, the bright deep yellow energy that dominated half of the sky roared like a storm and then, under countless shocked gazes, condensed onto the branches of the black tree, forming a magnificent, hundreds of feet long light tail. Great wilderness scripture, wild desolation slash. A hoarse, low voice echoed as Lin Dong unleashed his strike, resounding across the turbulent sea of primordial energy. Swish! In an instant, a massive light arc, hundreds of feet long, burst forth from the black tree's branches. Boom, boom, boom. As the light arc streaked out, it carved a deep, immense gorge into the ground, stretching from the center of the battlefield to the mountain's edge. It looked as if the entire mountain was about to be cleaved in two. The speed of the light arc was astonishing. Most could only see a flash before. In the next moment, the gigantic light arc had already collided with the enormous black shadow's palm amidst their stunned gazes. Shoo! Shoo! Though the collision was tremendous, it produced no deafening sound. Instead, the two terrifying energy attacks met, like water and fire, fiercely eroding each other, trying to cancel one another out. Crash! Waves of terrifying energy rippled madly through the sky, distorting the space where the two forces clashed. Everyone stared unblinkingly at the sky, watching the terrifying energies grind against one another. After a few moments, their eyes suddenly contracted as the two powerful energies finally lost control and exploded outward. It was like a massive sandstorm sweeping across the heavens and earth, and no one could escape it. Some disciples who were too close were instantly struck by the aftershock, coughing up blood as their faces turned pale with fear. The sheer power of the residual force left them defenseless. What horrors must lie at the heart of the clash? Black and yellow energy waves rippled outward in all directions, and when the shock wave reached the two figures in the center, they were both struck as if by a sledgehammer, sent flying through the air like cannonballs. Both figures spat out blood as they were hurled back, clearly injured by the backlash of their own immense power. Ying Xiaoxiao, watching the nearly double knockout in the arena, couldn't help but cover her mouth with her hand, a worried expression crossing her face. Lin Dong and Wang Yan were both brutal fighters, and once they clashed, it was nerve-wracking to witness. Any mistake in their fierce exchanges would have resulted in severe injuries. Shoo! Lin Dong planted the black tree heavily into the ground, carving out a deep, 100-meter-long trench as his azure dragon wings behind him flapped violently. Gradually, he managed to dispel the terrifying force invading his body. Steadying himself, Lin Dong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. A cold, savage gleam appeared in his eyes. He lifted the black tree once more, and with a flap of his dragon wings, his figure vanished in an instant. On the other side, Wang Yan had also steadied himself with difficulty. His hair was disheveled, and his expression betrayed a hint of disbelief. How could Lin Dong have withstood his powerful strike? There was a gap of 3 whole nirvana stages between them. Could the great wilderness scripture really be so formidable? But Wang Yan didn't have time to dwell on it. His expression suddenly changed as he sensed something, and his body flickered away in a swift dodge. Boom! Just as Wang Yan dodged, the black tree tore through the air with terrifying force, slamming into the ground where he had just stood. A deep fissure spread from the point of impact, chasing after Wang Yan as shards of stone, infused with boundless primordial energy, shot toward him like deadly missiles. Bang! 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 In midair, Wang Yan swung his heavy sword fiercely, his sword aura slicing the stones into dust. Whoosh! As soon as his sword aura dissipated, Lin Dong's ghostly figure reappeared in front of him, a fierce punch aimed directly at Wang Yan's chest. Seeing Lin Dong's relentless assault, A flash of savagery flickered in Wang Yan's eyes. This time, he didn't dodge. Instead, he kicked out with fierce force. Wang Yan's combat style had always been ruthless. He had never been forced to retreat by anyone using the same vicious tactics. But now, Lin Dong was pushing him back again and again. Bang, bang. Their punches and kicks, filled with immense force, landed heavily on each other's bodies. Both grunted in pain as they staggered back, their feet hitting the ground. In this fierce exchange, neither of them seemed to care about defense. The sight of these two reckless fighters left the onlookers in awe. These two were truly brutal. Lin Dong spat out a mouthful of blood and shook his trembling hand. His gaze was cold and fixed on Wang Yan. When his punch landed, something on Wang Yan's body had absorbed most of the force. Lin Dong, you can't beat me. Wang Yan wiped the blood from his face, a cold smile appearing on his indifferent face. His body trembled slightly, and a faint golden light appeared on the surface of his skin, forming a tough, keratinous layer that enveloped his entire body. You've done well to fight me to a standstill with just the power of the 6th Nirvana stage. But the difference between the 6th and 9th Nirvana stages is vast. Now that my essence spirit has started to take form, I can use the power of my essence spirit to form this essence spirit keratin. Your attacks can't break through it. Essence spirit keratin. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed. No wonder he sensed a familiar energy. It was formed by the power of the essence spirit. Normally, only after reaching the 7th Nirvana stage could one begin to manifest this power, and even then, forming an essence spirit was incredibly rare. Though Wang Yan hadn't fully formed his essence spirit yet, he had clearly had some fortunate encounter that allowed him to create this defensive keratin, which was incredibly strong. Boom! Lin Dong's eyes flickered, and with a sudden stomp of his foot, he launched himself forward once more. Foolish persistence. Wang Yan's eyes gleamed with even more bloodlust as he thrust his heavy sword forward with terrifying speed. Clang! The black tree collided with the heavy sword. Lin Dong channeled his energy through his palm, causing the black tree to spiral out of his hand, entangling itself with the heavy sword and knocking both weapons away. Whoosh! Disarming Wang Yan in a split second, Lin Dong closed the distance, his fierce palm strike aimed directly at Wang Yan. From a distance, Ying Xiaoxiao and Ying Huan both cried out in alarm. Though they knew Lin Dong had a powerful physique, Wang Yan was now protected by the essence spirit keratin. Without his weapon, how could Lin Dong penetrate Wang Yan's defense? Fool! Wang Yan sneered. Wang Yan's eyes turned icy cold when he saw Lin Dong daring to close in for a direct confrontation. With his essence spirit keratin, Lin Dong's normal attacks would barely be able to scratch him. In contrast, a single punch from Wang Yan could seriously injure Lin Dong in an instant. Bang! Wang Yan's palm struck out like lightning, landing directly on Lin Dong's chest. The violent force made Lin Dong's throat tighten, and he could taste the metallic tang of blood rising in his mouth. However, Lin Dong ignored the pain and the blood trickling from his lips. His blood-stained face looked especially fierce as his own palm finally landed on Wang Yan's body. Sure. The moment Lin Dong's hand made contact, Wang Yan saw something alarming. The corners of Lin Dong's lips curled into a strange smile. In the next instant, Wang Yan noticed a palm-sized golden light wheel materializing in Lin Dong's hand. This is a primordial spirit artifact? For the first time, a look of shock appeared in Wang Yan's usually indifferent eyes.